Greetings, salutations. Okay, so even though you don't know it, this is the second time I'm doing this video. Got through the whole video, and I made such a stupid mistake, and so now I have to redo the whole video over. But sometimes, if first you don't succeed, you try and try again. So I may make another mistake. Disclaimer: I will do better to make sure I use my cheat sheet just to double check if I'm uncertain. Okay, so let me do a roll call. Who's brilliant? Who's gifted? Who's talented? And who's intelligent? Who's blessed from the crown of their head to the sole of their feet? We all are. Excellent. So the previous videos we've been using, so we're going to use the same word list. We're still using fourth grade word list: bridge, gravity, hungry, eclipse, secret, glance, laundry, attract, switch, and trouble. So those are the 10 words that are on our list. Okay? So now, let's see. We have every sentence. So today's video is about sentence structure. There are 2 basic components. There are other more advanced components too, but the 2 basic components is every sentence must have a subject and every sentence must have a predicate. Those are the basic things: subject and predicate. That's where your sentence starts. And then from there, you build out, and the sentence can become more complicated. It can become more advanced. But all we're looking at is the subject and predicate, and we're looking at the part of speech for each word to see how that particular word would function within a sentence. Okay? So now, if our first word is bridge. Now, the reason I'd like to use the word bridge is because bridge has 2 functions. Bridge can function as a noun, but it can also function as a verb. And because bridge can function as a noun or a verb, it means that you would have to kind of examine the context. And the context means, what is the author communicating, or what other information is being given within a sentence to make sure you have an understanding of why that particular word is being used, or how that word is being used, or what the function of that word is in that particular sentence. So if we look at bridge, right? If we look at the word bridge as our first sentence, and we say, so we use the word bridge, right? All right, let's look. All right, so now, if we use it as a noun, so there are 3 basic functions. There are other functions. You can have adverbs, you can have pronouns, you can have all these other things. But I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible, and I'm going to be more mindful. That's something else I didn't do so well in the other video either. So now, if it is a noun, it means that it is a person, place, or thing. That is a noun. It's a person, place, or thing. So now, a noun can be a proper noun or it can be a common noun. If it's a proper noun, that means it's the name of a person, place, or thing. If it's a common noun, it means it's the actual thing. So let's say if I said headphones. Headphones are a thing. That's a noun. But if I said Sony headphones, Sony is a brand. So Sony is a name. It is a proper noun and would have to be capitalized. If I say state, that can be any state. That's general, it's generic, it's common. That doesn't have to be capitalized. But if I say Maryland or Washington or Florida or Georgia or Michigan or Mississippi, those are all proper nouns and they have to be capitalized. Okay? So now, if we look at let's use bridge in a sentence. Again, this is a basic sentence. It's really, really basic. It doesn't have to be. All I want to hear is that the sentence is a complete sentence in that it has a subject and it has a predicate. That's it. Those 2 things. All right. We're looking at a subject and a predicate. So now, if we're looking at a subject and predicate, right, we're saying this. Let's see, and we're going to use it as a noun. We're using bridge as a noun. All right. So we said the bridge. The bridge uh, stands tall over the water. Okay? So now, the bridge stands tall over the water. All right? So now, if we were looking at the subject, and the reason why this is important is oftentimes when you're writing, and I found this even in my, even as you get older. So when you look at a sentence, right? Every sentence, no matter what, always has to have a subject and a predicate. All right. So if the subject is the bridge, right? The predicate becomes what the bridge is actually doing. All right. All right. Okay. So where's my grandma? Okay. So in our first sentence, we're using bridge as a noun. All right. And it means the bridge, and it says the bridge stands tall over the water. Okay. The bridge stands tall over the water. Okay? So now in this sentence, the subject is the bridge because the bridge is actually functioning, is what the sentence is all about. Now, the predicate tells you what the subject is doing. So if you do not have a subject and a predicate, it is not a complete sentence. So that's the beginning of you being able to write thoroughly and write consistently, in which I know that your teacher, Miss Brown, was my daughter. I know your teacher, Miss Brown, was working with you on this. We've worked on it. The last couple years, last year, we did a lot of trying to write your sentences, and sometimes I would kind of be there to help you, and so I would kind of be able to remind you to say, hey, is that the subject, is that the predicate? So right now, this is what you should be doing individually. Independently, if you get a list of your spelling words, you should always make sure it has a subject and a predicate. And if you're responding to a question, making sure that you're using the keywords from the question to start your response. That's it. There are other more complicated things that we're not going to discuss. It's just making sure you have a subject and a predicate when you develop your sentences. All right? So in this sentence, again, bridge is functioning as a noun. Now, the thing about bridge is bridge can be a noun, but it can also be a verb. So in this, if it's a person, place, or thing, in the context of the sentence, it's a thing, right? Or a place. We'll meet at the Brooklyn Bridge. All right? It can be a place because that's a specific bridge. And if you say Brooklyn Bridge, like bridge, that's it. That's any bridge anywhere USA, anywhere on the globe. But if I said the Brooklyn Bridge, that's a specific bridge and it's a name and that's a proper noun and it would have to be capitalized. But this, in this sense, it's just a common noun and so it's not capitalized. Okay. So now let's look at 1B. If we used it as a verb. Okay. All right. So if we use it as a verb, right, and we say, we bridged the gap over the valley. We used a plank, or let me make it more, Jack or Sophia. We'll use Sophia, okay? Sophia, and we'll say log, used a log to bridge the gap, bridge the gap over the valley. Okay? So now, our sentence is Sophia used a log to bridge the gap over the valley. Okay? So now, who is the subject? Who is the sentence about? That's right. The sentence is about Sophia. So Sophia is the subject. And we'll underline that in blue. Now, the predicate is everything else. Everything else. Everything else. So that means it's going to have verbs. It can give more instruction. It can give more detail. That's all in the predicate. Okay. So now, Okay? So now, so Sophia used the log to bridge the gap over the valley. So the big thing is we've identified the subject. Everything else is the predicate. What she did or how she did it, because in the next video, we'll talk about the 5 W's and giving more detail to make sure that your sentence is not only complete, but that if your reader read it, they can be able to really use their imagination or be able to kind of clearly infer what it is like the purpose of you providing that particular sentence or the details that you provide in each sentence. Okay. All right. So that's the word bridge. We got 2 sentences out of that one. Now let's look at our next sentence. We want to use trouble. Now, I told you that trouble can be a noun, verb, or an adjective. And the reason why the word trouble can be a noun, verb, or adjective. Did I go through the whole word list? If I didn't, I'll go back through it at the end. So the reason why it can be a noun, verb, or adjective, it's because it depends on how it's being used. And again, when we're not that particular thing, like how a word is used in a sentence or in a paragraph, that is called context. 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 So sometimes you may be reading and you don't understand a word, or you don't, what you can do to help you infer or kind of come up with a way to infer what the meaning is or kind of figure out what it means is being able to look at the sentence and understand the context. Like, what are they talking about? So let's use the word bridge. If I wasn't sure, are they meaning a bridge that we cross over, or is it a bridge to pull things together? Are they talking about the noun or the verb? Well, then I would look at the sentence and I would say, is there a vehicle? Is someone walking? Is it transportation related? Or are they pulling something together? Okay? Are they making 2 parts fit? All right? Or creating um, a connection. That'd be creating a connection or a passageway between 2 locations. All right? So that would be one of the things that we would look at. All right? Um, So now we'll go to the second sentence. We'll go. So that's if it's a noun or a verb. Now, if it's an adjective, if you say, oh, that's um that Humpty Dumpty, you could say Humpty Dumpty was in big trouble, right? And so in that sense, it was like a consequence. Something bad happened. So consequence is a thing. But if you say Big Bad Wolf is nothing but trouble, you're saying he's bad, right? So you're describing his character. So that is an adjective, okay? So now, let's look at 2A. So now, if we use trouble, we can say this. Let's see. As a noun. Let's see. Um, uh, let's say uh, Goldilocks. We'll use Goldilocks. So Goldilocks got in big trouble for eating porridge. Okay. So Goldilocks got in big trouble for eating porridge. All right. So okay. So who is the subject of this sentence? Goldilocks. Right. Now. All right. So Goldilocks got in big trouble for eating porridge. Now, in this sense, trouble is our spelling word, and trouble is functioning as a noun because it's like a consequence. Like she got in big trouble. There was a thing that happened. There was some sort of consequence that was administered. Okay, So now, let's look at 2B. So if we want to say a verb, and we can say God troubled the waters to scare Jonah. Okay? So now, who is the subject? Who is doing the action in this particular sentence? God. Okay? Now, what is God doing? That's the predicate. Troubled the waters to scare Jonah. Okay? So God troubled the waters to scare Jonah. Okay? God troubled the waters to scare Jonah. All right? So now, again, our subject would be God because that's who's doing the sentence or who's actually doing the action. So there, even though there's another proper noun, there's another name mentioned. We're not talking about what Jonah did. We're not saying the waters were troubled and Jonah jumped out. All right. We're saying God is doing the action. Okay. So if we wanted to say water, if we were going to talk about Jonah, we would say Jonah jumped out of the boat. Jonah was thrown overboard when the waters were troubled. All right. So then, in that sense, it's about what Jonah was doing. All right. But in this sense, it's about what God did. And so that's how we know that God is the subject of that particular sentence. All right. God troubled the waters to scare Jonah. All right. Now, let's use trouble as an adjective. If we say, um, hmm, we can say Big Bad Wolf, right? Because Big Bad Wolf was always trying to blow down the houses of the little piggies, right? Okay, so now, if in that sentence we say Big Bad Wolf is nothing but trouble, right? So again, we're still using our same spelling word, trouble, trouble. Now, Big Bad Wolf is the subject, okay? Because that's his name, Big Bad Wolf. Even though Big Bad are adjectives, it's actually a part of his name, Big Bad Wolf. So actually, it should be capitalized because on what's that? Goldie and Bear. They sometimes they call him Big Bad for short. So let's imagine this is Goldie and Bear, right? So Big Bad Wolf. In this sense, we're using it as a proper noun because that's his name in the story. Um, and the predicate, so that would be the subject. So the subject is a proper noun because it's someone's name. And the predicate is what the actual subject is doing, is nothing but trouble. Now, in this sense, trouble is an adjective because trouble is a synonym of bad. So if you say, oh, you're a bad person, or that was a bad choice, or that was something bad you did, then you're describing it. You're describing it. So in this sense, trouble is describing his character. So it is an adjective. Okay. So now, again, the most important thing is that when you're writing a sentence, you want to make sure it has a subject and a predicate. The subject is always going to be what the sentence is about. The predicate is going to tell you what is actually happening. So it's who or what so the subject is who or what the sentence is about. The predicate describes what the subject is actually doing. Okay? So those are your basic those are the basic components of a sentence, and that's gonna really conclude this video. I realize you can't leave comments in the comment box. I know that I make mistakes. Forgive me in advance. This is why I asked you to make sure you check it. And this is why, Niaja, when we usually do our lessons, I say, Mommy doesn't know everything, and sometimes I make mistakes. And so I welcome you to always ask questions. You can go over it with Daddy if you get a chance. And sorry, I started making this just about my daughter. If there's anyone else watching this in the YouTube universe, forgive me if I make a mistake. Always feel free to reach out and let me know. I am not a certified or licensed teacher. I just, I homeschooled my daughter, and I usually would have to prep before my lessons, and I haven't been doing that as much. Been kind of winging it just a little bit. So, yeah. So if the video isn't as informative or as helpful, it's fine. But hopefully, for my daughter, she's practicing writing sentences, and you can never get too much practice. Because by the time you come out of elementary, you should be writing complete and full sentences. Oh, and that's the thing I forgot on that last sentence. We can use an exclamation point because we know when you're writing, the difference between writing and saying is the reader doesn't have the benefit of being able to see what your face look or hear how you pronounce it or to hear the tone of your voice or anything like that to be able to figure out what you're saying. So everything has to stand on the page. So if you want it to be something where they say it like they get, it's with a lot of emphasis. We know we use because we're saying it excited, so we use an exclamation point. If it's something that we're just kind of saying declarative or expository, meaning we're just giving information or just saying it, we use a period. If we're asking a question, we know, did you eat my did you eat my porridge? We can do that with our voice, but if they're reading it, they wouldn't know that. So that's why we use a question mark on the end. So that's that for this particular lesson. Again, this is about subject and predicate, and I hope you practice it. I love and appreciate you. I miss you dearly. I love you, sweetheart, and I hope to hear from you soon.